welcome to a new video. Today is April 20th, which means it is 420, but it is also Easter Sunday, and it's kind of funny how those two holidays fell on the same day this year. But I'm currently in the car waiting for the train because I'm going to go into Manhattan to shoot the Easter parade, which is something I haven't done before, but I know that it could be pretty interesting in terms of the people who come out and are part of the parade. So I'm going to try to get some photos there. I made a last minute decision to not bring my Sony, and instead I'm bringing the Ricoh, and I'm also going to shoot some film. So yeah, just kind of excited to see how it goes. I'm not going to stay for too long, but yeah, let's go. Alright, so walking over to Fifth Avenue right now. The parade starts at 49th, but most of the activity is going to be happening around St. Patrick's Cathedral, so going to meet up with some of the homies over there, and yeah, should be there in about 15 minutes. Hello from the future. So I'm going to do some commentary because I didn't really speak much while I was shooting the video, so I thought I would just kind of provide some of my thoughts on these chaotic few hours. So I shot alone for a little bit until I met up with Austin, Jay, and David.
I just want to send this before we all split because I know it's going to get crazy. Check this out.
Oh, dude, get out of my way, bro.
Bro, I must knock the camera out.
No, you didn't.
Yes, I did.
Get a strap then. Get a strap.
For the first few hours that I was there, the light didn't really hit the front of the cathedral, so most of the photos I got there were in shadow, but there was still a decent amount of light overall. I tried making my way closer to the front where it seemed like most people that were dressed up were trying to migrate to, and getting through that crowd honestly felt like an Olympic sport. Shooting on the Ricoh has its pros and cons when it comes to events like this because it doesn't get in the way, and it's great for, when you're in such crowded spaces like this, but at the same time, not having a flip out screen to kind of see what you're shooting can sometimes be a bit tough, and I was reaching above the crowd for a few shots, and I was basically shooting blind for those. I don't typically flock to parades and events like this, but I guess if I had any tips for shooting things like this, it's to take full advantage of the fact that people expect to be photographed and are totally cool with it, so it's a really good chance to practice your confidence and point your camera at strangers because no one is going to have a problem with you, or at least they shouldn't if they're all dressed up and going to public things like this, because it's very expected that there will be a lot of photographers, and there was. On a technical side, I think trying to incorporate the layers of the crowd in your compositions can make your photos a lot stronger, and it helps because you're already surrounded by a ton of people. With the Ricoh's 40mm lens equivalent, I was actively looking for people that were a bit of a distance away from me, and I tried to use the people that were directly in front of me as foreground elements for framing. I also thought black and white worked better than color in some of the shots that were more focused on the composition rather than the color itself, and I always find it a bit interesting going monochrome on an image that has a ton of color because that's maybe not exactly the photo you'd expect to see, and I think that itself can make the image a bit more interesting. There was a ton of color everywhere I looked, but I tried being a bit more intentional with the photos I took instead of just taking a photo of literally every person I saw, even though it may not look like that in this video. That's kind of what I was going for. So not only is it the New York Easter Parade, but it's also the Bonnet Festival, and so people were wearing some really cool headpieces, and a lot of them were kind of DIY, which I could appreciate, and it was funny to see what people chose to do with this festival and everyone kind of doing their own thing. After doing a bit of weaving and shooting through the crowd for a bit, I finally found Faisal.
You're the first person I see when I look out into the crowd. You're that easily noticeable.
So I know in the intro there are a few shots of me shooting film. It was my first time shooting Color Plus, but I haven't even sent that roll off to get processed, so if you want to see any of those shots, then I might be posting them on Instagram if they come out good, so feel free to follow me over there. Do you remember this woman from the train car, from the holiday one?
She's like,
I remember this woman from shooting the holiday train car back in December, so it was nice to see her again dressing for a different but somewhat similar occasion. Alright, breaking away for a little bit, gonna grab some coffee because I have no caffeine or any kind of fluids or food in me, so gonna go do that. After coffee, we went back to meet up with the rest of the guys, and honestly, I started to kind of fade a bit. Shooting in that chaos definitely drained me a bit, so I didn't go too hard for the rest of the day. Alright, so we have had enough of the parade, so we're gonna just head downtown and go to Washington Square Park, because that usually on 420 is absolutely insane. So gonna go see what we can get over there.
First time was like we talked over DM and shit, but first time hanging out was
Alright, so made it to Washington Square Park. It is absolutely packed with people. This is gonna be interesting. Alright, so back home from the city. You know, I'm not really one to shoot these types of like parades and like big events because it just doesn't fit the kind of work or style that I typically really like to shoot. So it's a little bit out of my comfort zone, and it's just like a lot of, you know, photographers and people posing for photos, which makes it easier to take photos because people are just expecting it. But at the same time, it's not really what I aim to shoot. But regardless, it was cool. It was my first time shooting like the whole Easter celebration in New York, so that was fun. But yeah, didn't really shoot any of the 420 stuff just because there wasn't really much interesting things going on. So like I said, all the 420 stuff at Washington Square Park just wasn't my vibe, so I didn't really shoot much there, but here are some other photos that I got from the Easter festivities. Most of the color photos in this video were edited with my freeze preset, which you can download for free on my website, so I'll leave that in the description if you're interested. But yeah, that's it for this one. Hope you enjoyed. I know it was a bit of a chaotic one. Subscribe if you haven't, and I'll see you in the next one.